What's up? What's up? What's up? It's that time of the show where we kind of give a shout out to our sponsors. The sponsor today is Anchor. Anchor is everything you need to create your own podcast. You can use Anchor to distribute your show. They'll kind of get it out for you. And all you have to do is do it from your cell phone or your microphone, however you want to do it. But if you want to get your voice out there, if you want to talk to the people, there's no better place to do it than Anchor. So download the app, Anchor, or go to their website, anchor.com. It'll distribute your podcast on all platforms. So again, Anchor. Hey, what's up? What's up? You Can't Play Boxing Podcast, episode 62. Back in the building. It's been a while, but it's always good to catch up with my You Can't Play Boxing Podcast family. So before we get into everything, though, you know what I'm saying? Number one, I want to thank everybody for supporting. The followers has been going up. The YouTube views has been going up. The podcast listens has been going up. So I couldn't do it without everybody listening. So I appreciate everybody. Number one. And then number two, in order to kind of keep that growing, definitely like and subscribe to the podcast. Even if you're listening, still subscribe to it. Number three, check us out on our social media, which is You Can't Play Boxing. That's UCANTPLAYBOXING. That's on Instagram. If you on Twitter, it's You Can't Play Boxing. And if you on YouTube, go to You Can't Play Boxing podcast. We got new videos up there. Also, you can find all the old podcasts on there too. And then also, go to our website, which got everything, you know what I'm saying? Go to youcan'tplayboxing.com, youcan'tplayboxingpodcast.com. So, got all the house cleaning out the way. It's been a while, man. So I'm glad I'm talking to y'all. If I'm sounding a little bit mundane, please forgive me. It's been a long day. I'm recording this at 11:30 Pacific time right now. So it's kind of late for me, especially when I'm getting up early in the morning, but I had to get an episode out to y'all. It's been a lot going on in boxing, so it's only right, if we kind of connect and kind of discuss these things. So I'm not going to make the episode too long, but it's a whole lot of shit that we got to discuss. So let's dive right into it. Number one, last weekend we saw the return of a lot of good high-level boxing, which is kind of what really makes this podcast thrive. It's because of the high-level boxing, and we try to provide analysis and really try to dive into it to really talk about those fights. So we had 3 high-level matches. We started off with Triple G versus Murata in Tokyo. And that fight, to be honest, like I said, I'm on Pacific time, so that fight started like 5 a.m. You know what I'm saying, on a Saturday. And I ain't gonna lie, like I missed the first half of the fight because I woke up like 5:30. And then, so I was catching the fight at that time. I think when I caught it, it was like 6th round, but I went back and replayed some of it. And in that fight, Triple G, he hasn't been in the ring for about, I think, 16 months. Triple G, of course, just turned 40 years old. So a 40-year-old who's coming after a 16-month layoff. A lot of times you'll see a lot of rust. But he was facing the guy, Murata, who was 16-2 at the time, based out of Japan, you know what I'm saying? Murata lost to Rob Brandt and also, what's the other guy named? Indakam or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So he's lost 2 times, but he did avenge each of his 2 losses, in the past. So Triple G went there to Tokyo. It was a good comeback fight. Murata had a belt. I think he had the WBA belt or WBO, one of those belts he had already. So it was technically a unification fight, even though Murata hadn't fought in 3 years himself. So both of them were coming off of long layoffs. And the fight started off, Triple G definitely was a little bit rusty. Murata was going to the body in the first couple rounds. And he was making it difficult for Triple G. Triple G definitely did not like the body shots. You know what I'm saying? He definitely was having problems with it. So I really say those first three or 4 rounds, Murata was doing pretty well. But it was like the middle of the fight, like around round 4 or 5, that Triple G kind of got his groove back. I know he did a right cross to Murata, which knocked out his mouthpiece. I think it was a right cross or a right hook, one of the two. And at that point, once he knocked out Murata's mouthpiece, he kind of took over the fight from there, kind of started breaking him down. And round 9, you know what I'm saying? Triple G, he scored the TKO victory after he dropped Murata. So he became a unified champion. And of course, if you've been following boxing, you know that Triple G, he's already signed to fight Canelo, which was contingent on the fact that if he beat Murata and if Canelo beat Bivol, then they both fight each other in September. Now, I'm not saying that Bivol is Dimitri Bivol is going to be a pushover for Canelo. I actually think that fight is going to be a pretty competitive fight for sure. But I think if Canelo does get past Dimitri Bivol, well, put it this way. I think the Dimitri Bivol fight may be more difficult than the Triple G fight. Now, of course, Canelo and Triple G, they fought twice already. The first one was a draw. The second one was Canelo winning a split decision. And I know it's controversial. Like, okay, who won? A lot of people feel that Triple G won the first fight. And me personally, I'm not mad if you feel that way. I just feel that it was actually a draw. You know what I mean? So I wasn't upset by the decision as far as being a draw. But I'm not upset if you have Triple G winning the fight too. But I don't think it was a blowout. I mean, I think at most you can give Triple G 8 rounds. So there's probably like 2 swing rounds. But I had to fight a draw. So, and on the second fight, I'm more confident in that one. Like the second fight, I feel like Canelo was definitely coming forward more than Triple G. He was the more aggressive fighter. He was slipping punches. He had more control over that fight than Triple G. And I had that fight score at 115 and 113 for Triple G. For Canelo, my bad. So I really agree with both of the decisions in the first 2 fights. Now, I know I may be in the minority, or maybe I'm not, but I've watched them a couple times. And what I'll probably do, I may do an episode to kind of rescore that first fight, and we'll just kind of do an episode about that one. But I had the first fight a draw, and the second fight Canelo winning 7-5. Well, 115, 113. So me personally, I think that Canelo's got better since those fights 4 years ago. And I think Triple G slipped. He's started declining a little bit. He's 40 years old. So I suspect, my prediction is that, Triple G's chin is still good enough to where he won't get knocked out. But I feel like the rounds that Canelo wins, he's going to inflict more damage on Triple G than any other fight. And, I feel we may be looking at a 116, 112 type of decision, you know what I mean? Like Triple G, I feel he will win some rounds. maybe 4 rounds or so. But I think Canelo's going to win this one more convincingly. I think he's just better. He's just in better shape at this point, And, but I'm not mad at Triple G's getting this fight, Hey, you get the big payday and then you retire, So I think he can, again, like I said before, I think his chin is good enough to where he can withstand 12 rounds with Canelo. He's going to have some damage, but I feel like he can make, an honest showing for himself, So that's my thought on the Triple G versus Murata fight. Let me know what y'all think about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, reach out to me. You can't play boxing at gmail.com. I definitely read some of the listener emails, and we'll take it from there. So coming up, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the Lubin versus Fundora fight, which was the shit. And then we'll also talk about Ryan Garcia. And then we're going to preview the Errol Spence Jr. versus Ugas fight. So, yeah, stay tuned for a second. We'll be right back. Shouts out to our sponsors. Luxury Apex is sponsoring this segment. LuxuryApex.com is where you can find the most premium colognes and fragrances for women and perfumes for women for great prices. Luxury Apex has premium colognes and perfumes from Chanel, from Tom Ford, also from Dior. And just for you listening to our podcast, You Can't Play Boxing, they got a special promo code for our listeners. If you type in the code Can't Play Boxing 25, you get 25% off from any item on the site. Luxury Apex includes free shipping, so give them a shout, man. LuxuryApex.com. Premium fragrances, top-notch designers. Let them know that You Can't Play Boxing sent you over there. Again, promo code is Can't Play Boxing 25. Hey, what's up? You Can't Play Boxing podcast. Back with the second segment. So, you remember how I mentioned like boxing was starting to heat up? I mean, we got a lot of big fights that's coming up over the next 2 months. And one of the fights that I was very, 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 very excited about from a style standpoint was Fundora versus Lubin for a 154-pound interim title, for WBC interim title. And I was intrigued by this fight because I knew the styles of these two fighters. I couldn't pick the fight. Let's be honest, because you got Lubin, who since his knockout loss to Charlo a few years ago, he's come back and won, 5 or 6 straight. And so Lubin seemed to have righted the ship. There were still questions about how he would do as far as his chin goes, but he had good wins against Terrell Garcia. He had good win against Jason Rosario. And Lubin, he kind of was, he turned the corner. Kevin Cunningham's been working with him for a long time since this loss. And so I knew that Lubin was hungry, and I knew that he wasn't going to fold, because you got to look at it in the boxing, bro. Especially if you get beat in that first round with a first round knockout loss, one of your first times that you step up in competition. What they'll try to do is that they'll try to write you off as if you're a fraud. So for you to ignore the naysayers, for you to pick yourself and your career off the ground and go against the grain what people are saying about you, it takes a lot of courage and intestinal fortitude, you know what I mean? So, and just looking at Lubin fight, I knew that he wasn't going to go down easy. And I knew that he had power, you know? And then you got Fundora, who is like a freak of nature. He's like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". I've seen it all. Anyway, he's very tall, you know what I mean? And he's, especially to be a junior middleweight, very tall, but he likes to fight. He likes to fight small, to be truthful. He likes to fight close. Most tall people like to fight using their reach. Fundora doesn't do that, and he's young, and he hasn't lost. And for each one of them, whoever won that fight, their career was going to be on a different trajectory as far as being in line for a title shot. So, you know, I couldn't pick the fight. Every time I try to look, I analyze the fight. I'm like, I could see Lubin trying to break Fundora down because Fundora, he doesn't really show a lot of defense. And if you're a good counter puncher and got some power, you can break him down and win some of those rounds. But then I was like, I could see Fundora being overwhelming with this volume and testing Lubin's chin and then outworking him. And so I would go back and forth about this fight. But, you know, I was just like, hey, I'm just going to enjoy it. You know, I don't know who's going to win it. And to be honest with you, this fight, it exceeded my expectations on the fight because, I mean, we saw everything that I thought we would see and even more. We saw Fundora dropping Lubin in the second round. We saw Lubin winning a sizable amount of rounds. I mean, I had to fight 85, 84 for Fundora after 9 rounds. So I had Fundora winning 5 rounds and I had Lubin winning 4 rounds. But some people had it the opposite. Some people had Lubin winning 5 rounds and Fundora winning 4 rounds. And some people had Lubin winning 6 rounds and Fundora winning 3 rounds because there were so many twists and turns in the fight. There'll be some rounds where Lubin is outboxing him and he's winning like the first 2 minutes, first 2.5 minutes. Then Fundora will come on strong and he'll win the last 30 seconds and knock Lubin down. And then in the 7th round, you'll see Fundora basically beating Lubin to a pulp, you know, where I think the towel is about to happen or the referee's going to stop it. And then the last 30 seconds to 45 seconds, Lubin connects with some hooks and then Fundora takes a knee. And you think like, oh, man, is this fight over with? So it was just so many back and forth swings, and it was definitely up there for fight of the year so far. It exceeded my expectations. If you haven't seen the fight, you know, the fight had to be stopped in the 9th round because Kevin Cunningham, Lubin's trainer, Lubin, he experienced, I don't know how to put this, man. His face was unrecognizable almost. And that's why, you know, it's kind of hard. That's why we kind of named the podcast what we named it, you know, because you can't play boxing. Like boxing, you can go in the ring one way and you come out and you look a whole different way. But Lubin, throughout it all, he showed heart. He didn't give up. A lot of fighters would have quit experiencing the sort of facial the facial morphing that he experienced, you know what I mean? And I think he had a separated shoulder, I think something wrong with his jaw. He didn't quit at all. So if there's any questions about Lubin's heart, like he answered those. He don't have to be ashamed of nothing. Of course, you know, it's easy to say that he should have boxed the majority of the rounds. And he's, you know, like I said, on a lot of people's scorecards, he still was ahead. But I always tell people, I say, hey, you can have a game plan to say, hey, he should have boxed more, but you're not in the ring giving up 6, 7, 8 inches to a guy who's coming forward, who's throwing 80 punches around, and who's connecting on 40% of those shots pretty much. So you're looking at, you know what I'm saying, just do the math. You got 9 rounds. He throwing 700 shots. He probably connecting on 250 of those, and a lot of those are uppercuts where he's putting some on it. You know what I'm saying? So why it's easy for us to say box, Lubin probably had in his mind like, hey, I got to throw some shit to get this motherfucker off me. You know what I'm saying? So, and he threw some shit to get him off of him. But Fundora has a great chin. Both of them gave it all, man. This is a great fight. So, awesome fight. A lot of big things on tap for Fundora. You know, he's probably in line to face the winner out of Charlo versus Castaño rematch. If he faces Charlo, that's going to be an interesting fight because of the styles. I mean, Charlo has more athleticism, but Fundora's size and his style of offensive pressure coming from that angle, he gonna test your nuts, and so you're gonna have to like dig deep to win. I think Charlo, he has the toolbox to do it. I'm just unsure. I have to see that fight to see if he can put all the tools together to win the fight, you know. But that would be a great fight. And Charlo, Fundora, he reminds me a lot of Paul Williams, you know what I'm saying? Paul Williams was tall and lanky, and he was very good at 147 and 154 because of his size, and he threw a lot of punches. His offense was his defense, you know what I mean? Like, he threw the amount of punches he threw was in order to keep fighters busy and keep them off of him. But as you go up in the higher weight classes, especially with the power that you're going to deal with, you know, he can get caught like Paul Williams got caught like in middleweight too. So, but I think it's going to be a lot of good entertaining fights with Fundora being involved with. Kid's only 24 years old, you know what I mean? So he got some more experience under his belt he can use. But to be honest with you, I don't see him changing his style. So I think the style that we see is going to be pretty much the same. I just think that he may have some more ring experience, but I think the style that we see is going to pretty much stay consistent. So that was a great fight of the year. A fight that wasn't fight of the year was going on at the same time. You had Ryan Garcia making his return in San Antonio. Not going to spend too much time on this fight. I mean, basically, Ryan Garcia opponent, he felt Ryan Garcia's power and pretty much just decided to try to survive. Ryan Garcia didn't step on the pedal to get him out of there. He won the majority of the rounds. I mean, he won pretty much all the rounds, really. And, he looked okay, but it really didn't. That fight, I didn't learn that much about Ryan Garcia in that fight. So, he's his first fight back, I think, in about a year. So he has to, put another good performance together. I think they said Ryan Garcia may face Jojo Diaz. And that would be a cool test. I think Ryan Garcia should be able to win that fight. But if Jojo comes in and he actually tests Garcia and doesn't try to survive, I think that'll be a good test for Ryan. So I'll be looking forward to that fight. So we had some good fights this past weekend. What we're going to do is take one more commercial break, and then we're going to be back with the preview of the Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas fight, which is coming up this Saturday in Dallas, Texas at Cowboy Stadium. So y'all stay tuned. Be right back. Hey, what's up? You Can't Play Boxing Podcast back for the final segment. We're going to talk about the big fight we got this weekend, pay-per-view. Fox pay-per-view, right? I think it's Fox, or is it Showtime? Anyway, pay-per-view. Errol Spence Jr. making his return after 16 months. He's fighting Yordenis Ugas in Cowboy Stadium. Interesting fight. Interesting fight. I think, of course, Errol Spence is undefeated. He has 2 belts. He has the WBC and the IBF. Ugas is the WBA championship, a WBA champion, as he beat Pacquiao to become that champion. And Ugas, been in some good fights with Sean Porter. He lost that one by decision, but some people think he won that fight. Of course, he beat Manny Pacquiao. And so, it's an interesting fight because Errol Spence, 16-month layoff, had eye surgery for his retina. Of course, he had the car accident a few years back where he was off 15 months on that one too. So in the last 3-4 years, he's only fought 1 or 2 times. I think skill-wise, Errol Spence at his best versus Ugas at his best. Errol Spence is just on a level that is slightly above Ugas. I think Ugas is solid. But the big question is, will we see Errol Spence at his best? Because if he's not at his best, Ugas is he's a solid fighter, and he's not your typical fight that someone would recommend as your comeback fight after a 16-month layoff. You know what I'm saying? He's not a tune-up fight, So you gotta be sharp on all 4 corners, you know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, me personally, I'm predicting Errol Spence to win by decision. I don't think that he's going to stop Ugas. I mean, Errol Spence hasn't had a stoppage in some years now, so I wouldn't predict that he's going to stop Ugas, but I do think this is going to be an interesting fight. I think it'll be hard for. I think Ugas may win some rounds. I think, he can win 4 to 5 rounds. But if Errol Spence is slipping, I think he can win 7 or 8 rounds. But the thing about it, though, Ugas damn near got to win 9 rounds in Texas to get 7 rounds on the judge's card. You know what I mean? Because any round that's close, I think Errol Spence is getting that. And so he got to damn near pitch a shutout in one of his best fights ever to beat Errol Spence in Texas. Me personally, I'm not predicting that. I think Errol Spence will win maybe 115, 113, 116, 112. It'll be interesting whether or not Errol Spence gets a knockdown. That'll be kind of interesting. So I'm looking forward to the fight, It'll definitely clear up some stuff. We're going to recap the fight on our next episode once it's over with. So, and y'all let me know who y'all going with. Y'all rocking with Errol Spence? You think he's going to win, or you think Ugas is going to win? So, tap in on the socials, which is UCANTPLAYBOXING on Instagram. Tap in on YouTube. You Can't Play Boxing, where you can find all the old episodes and some new content also. Tap in on Twitter, which is You Can't Play Boxing. And go to our website, You Can't Play Boxing Podcast. You can find all the old episodes there too. Of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, definitely subscribe and review the podcast too. All that helps. So, I appreciate it. Like I said before, I appreciate everybody for listening. I appreciate everybody for supporting. I appreciate all the comments. And, boxing is going to be active the next couple of months. So we're going to get we're going to get a lot more frequent episodes because the environment warrants that, you know what I'm saying? The environment warrants the episodes because we got things going on right now. So until next episode, where we recap the Errol Spence Jr. versus Ugas fight, I look forward to recapping that with y'all. So until next time, y'all, peace.